Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Student Success Center and welcome to the State of the College. We really like that video, so we show it to you again. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Erica Leone. I'm the CHASS HR business partner. I'm super excited to be here with you. I see some very familiar faces. I see some of our amazing faculty and also some of our outstanding hardworking staff. So I'm very excited to be able to help host this event. We are going to have lots of fun and lots of information coming at us in the next hour. We're going to have a live performance from some of our undergraduate students, as well as a performance presentation by one of our grad students. So lots of fun stuff coming at us. So welcome to all of you that are here live, and also welcome to those that are on Zoom. So what do you guys think of that video? That was such an amazing video. That was also by one of our fabulous CHASS students, Maxine Garcia. She's one of our fourth year theater students. Yes, please. Maxine is our videographer for our CHASS marketing team. She is also the winner of last year's FilmWorks Best Picture, as well as a winner of the Le Mans Scholarship. So many things to be proud of with our students. So just wanted to recognize her. And before we get started with the rest of our day, we do want to go ahead and do our UCR land acknowledgement.
We at UCR would like to respectfully acknowledge and recognize our responsibility to the original and current caretakers of this land, water, and air, the Cahuilla, Tongva, Luiseño, and Serrano peoples, and all of their ancestors and descendants, past, present, and future. Today, this meeting place is home to many indigenous peoples from all over the world, including UCR faculty, students, and staff. And we are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on these homelands.
So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our own UCR's Curtis Washington for doing that voiceover for us. He's from UCR's Distribution Services, Mail Services. So thank you, Curtis. So as I mentioned, today's event is live and in person. It's also on Zoom and it will be recorded. So you will be able to access it later on chas.ucr.edu. Also, just want to remind everyone, please shut off your cell phones, please. I'll say that again, please shut off your cell phones. Also, for those of you that are on Zoom, we do have chat disabled at the moment, but when we do our Q&A, we will have interactive Q&A for you. So you will have a chance to ask some questions. So for more information on today's presentation, again, chas.ucr.edu, or you can click on this super high-tech QR code. So I'm going to get us started with a presentation from one of our student groups. We have Nick McCurley. He's our third-year philosophy student, as well as Liam Bryant. He's one of our fourth-year music students, and they are going to be performing Black Orpheus. So please welcome Nick and Liam. Let's give it up for our amazing facilities team as well and all their hard work. Thank you so much, guys. Nick and Liam, that was beautiful. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I told my boss earlier, I wish I had an ounce of that talent when I was their age, but I didn't. So it's okay. They were amazing. So thank you. So we're going to be moving on to our next student presenter. So this is going to be a spoken word presentation from our MFA candidate of poetry. She's going to be reading her own work, The Thunder on the Street Store. Please welcome Victoria Hurtado Angulo.
Hello, thank you, Erica, for introducing me. I appreciate being here, and I'm honored to represent the MFA program in creative writing. So I'm gonna get started on this one poem and one poem only. The thunder on the street store. Despierta. 6 a.m. never looked better on your body. Getting ready for the street store for the rest of the day and the city, where milk meets fruit flies, and you get to swing at the guy who flakes out on you if you find him. Fine nails scheming to dream, feathered hat, you dress for fun and nobody questions it anymore. It's just the street store. No more visits to the boys' home where coffee is offered and you know to say, thank you, but stun my genes is preferred than my growth. It's a sweet joke, but his parents don't laugh. You continue. They were on layaway. You thought you could find a home, somewhere gentle to the skin, and lighting seems to like you. The sun was real, this time. That rhyme in your head creating mystical homes that gives sunburns on the bones. There's nothing better. They call you fly when you close that gate to dip out, saying like you're making a statement with your hands, wiping off that sweat, street store sweating. You know that kind. It's a fair day, it's time you hollered back to those men spitting vows and make an oscuro painting through words. You say something like booga booga and pick your nose. They won't bother you anymore. You're so blind to the sky. You match too well with the bees stuck in amber. The weather wouldn't change one bit for you. Why is that? It's hard to check on that chaos between your eyes, so the store makes streets easy to walk. I've got things to do. Push the pool door and look interested in the mangoes, grab a few chocolate bars, read the ingredients of Dr. Pepper, listen to the blaring of LL Cool J from that cream Cadillac, then put everything back. It starts to pour down on you, watering your eyes, skin of soil. You wring out your locks while the customers are in their own merengue worlds. You leave with only wrinkles on your hands. You're barely growing into your breasts. The sun can't help you with the rest. Street stores look like tacky 80s homes that really can't house someone like you. Go back. Walk backwards the same blocks and undo those words you meant to tell those pricks on the way. It's okay. start again tomorrow. Dream of shopping for nothing or felt pens and cheap scissors. 6 a.m. smack blue. Get that orange. Open that same door. Marry that stoic street store. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Victoria. Those were powerful words, and you very talented as well. So thank you. Okay, so now we are getting to the bulk of our presentation. So I'm going to ask that you please help me to welcome our fearless leader, Professor of History and Dean, Daryle Williams.
Thank you, Erica. I want to thank all of you for being here in this space, which is an amazing space that this university has been able to construct over the course of the pandemic. It's an amazing time to be at UCR. I met some of you for the first time a year ago, so you probably don't remember it, when I gave my vision statement, which was 1 year ago yesterday. I didn't actually get to see you, you saw me, and now it's great to see some of you in person and some of you online. It's been quite a year. It's been quite 2 years that we have gone through during this pandemic. I joined in the middle of that very difficult period for all of us, including this institution, but I'm very proud to be the Dean of the College of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences, and to talk today with you about who we are, where we're going, and how we can get there. So that being said, I'm going to start with my own notes here, just so I make sure that I don't stray too far. Today's presentation is going to be organized around 5 key pillars: research, public engagement, student experience, budget and organization, and our future. Again, I want to stress research, public engagement, the student experience, and budget and organization in our future. These 5 pillars seem to me to be a way that we can think about, again, who we are, where we're going, including some of the pain points, and how we're going to get there together. So I'm going to start here with research. We do fantastic research in CHASS. There is just no doubt about that. We do fantastic research. We are fantastic researchers, and we are fantastic at the research that we do. We in CHASS joined the university at knocking at the door of the American Association of Universities, an elite group of 61 higher education institutions in the United States and Canada that are the best of researchers and research in the world. We lead that effort, and I'm very proud to say that. Well, of course, we're also distinctive in many ways in the research that we do and how we do it and where we do it. We are a Hispanic serving institution. We are an Asian American, Native American, and Pacific Islander institution, and we're in R1. There are very, very few AAU members that can say that, and we can. This is one of the reasons why the AAU needs to invite us to join the party. So I'm very proud of the research that we do, and I think it's very important to stress that we are part of the imagination and the innovation of what research must look like moving forward at this institution and in the world. Of course, we're uniquely positioned as well because of the scope of this college. We bring many of the traditional disciplines of the arts, humanities, and social sciences, and many of the interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, and intersectional work that is leading the way for so many different fields of inquiry and research here. So let me give you some examples of the research that we do. We have to start here. Very fresh news. This year, I think the number was 2,500 applicants to the John Guggenheim Foundation for selection for Guggenheim Fellows. 180 fellows selected. 2 in this college. 2 of 180 are in this college. Professor Yu-Hee Min, Department of Art, Professor Anthea Kraut, Professor in Department of Dance. The 2 Professors Kraut and Min are creating work that challenges and inspires us to understand the nature and the scope and the depth and the importance of human creativity. These fellowships show the depth and the accomplishment of the creative arts and the humanities and which rivals research at any institution anywhere in the world. So please join me in celebrating the accomplishments of Professor Yin, Professor Kraut. Now, these 2 Guggenheim Fellows stand with more than 300 ladder-ranked faculty and many other hundreds of other faculty that we have and graduate students who do fantastic research. CHASS faculty are involved in just a range of sponsored research activities that on this campus alone total $68 million. That's pretty impressive. Let me give you some examples. Professor Nigel Whitson, Department of Dance, two-time Bessie Award winner, and also whose work has been described as majestic by the New York Times, and in the coming year will be a CIS Mellon professor. Professor Sonia Lubomitsky from distinguished professor, I should say, Sonia Lubomitsky from Department of Psychology, is widely quoted in the media during the pandemic for her research into kindness, gratitude, and connection. Professor Walter Aaron Clark, this year's Academic Senate Research Faculty Researcher Award, which is in recognition of the work that he does in Latin American and Iberian music, receiving the highest award for research that our Academic Senate confers. Professor of Theater, Dance, and Digital Production, Patricia Cardozo, award-winning writer and producer, as well as the first Latinx female film producer to be inducted in Library of Congress's National Film Registry, whose pilot has just got picked up by Amazon. Fantastic work that these researchers do. And some breaking news I'd like to share with you. Just to receive this from the Department of Art History, Canberra Sklartz has received three pre-doctoral fellowships for her work in material culture in early America. These are all examples of the type of research that is recognized externally and internally for what we do in this college. And that is really important for us to recognize the significance of our research. Now, I already mentioned that we are an R1 that's also his minority serving institution. That is the core to our research and it's core to our identity. What does that mean to be a minority serving institution? Well, here is a snapshot of our students, our undergraduate students, driven, diverse, first generation students. Give you some breakdowns here. No other research institution can have this demographic and say they're also a research institution together, but we can. That's very, very important. It means that our R1 status intersects with this status that we have as a minority institution, and diversity and inclusion are at the bedrock of every research initiative and activity that we do here. Now, when do we talk about researchers actually in the diversity, these diverse students who are actually doing research? Well, here's a snapshot of what's going on right now from student affairs. 625 of our undergraduates are engaged in some form of research right now. Gives you a sense about who these students are right here. And I think this is something to be celebrated. The future opportunities, of course, need to grow. We need to provide more opportunities for more of our students to participate in research. I'm going to give you an example and a shout out. I just found this out this morning. Just today, we found out that the Crossing Latinidades Humanities Research Initiative, which is part of the Alliance, I have to read this because it's very new, part of the Alliance for Hispanic Serving Research Institutions, is pleased to share with us that we have 3 of our students who are participating in the Summer Institute in Latino Humanities Studies, Methodologies, and Theories, which is quite a lot of words, at the University of Illinois this coming July. This is an example of the kind of high impact research activities that we have and we are going to be growing. We have already the Mellon Mays program. I'm very hopeful that we can join McNair Scholars Program, summer research opportunity programs. These are the type of high impact research opportunities that our undergraduates need, they deserve, and will continue to consolidate and further our research initiatives. So I really want to celebrate that work here. Now, I do also want to stress here that the type of research that goes on here is pure research, pure direct production of knowledge, but it's also very much community engaged. We have lots of research activities which are engaged in it has impact in our community here. Some of that work is with the Leverage Fellows, as many of you may know, and very soon we're going to have engaged community research with the Californians for All volunteer corps here. So I want to make this transition here to talk about how our research and our community engagements come together for our more broad mission and impact that we have in public engagement here. Research and practice come together in community engagement. CHASS is a place to articulate the identity of inland Southern California, as well as in the world. The social science, the arts, and the humanities provide us the tools and the languages and the disciplines to do, then think about exploring identity and place, and this is exactly what we do, serving our public here. So to talk about the university, and more specifically to talk about the college in this way, is important for each of us to understand how we, as members of a public research institution in the state of California, particularly in inland Southern California, are of a place and a public. I ask each of you to think about that. Now, I'm going to give you an example of someone who's doing this in a spectacular way. Our distinguished professor of creative writing, Susan Straight, a longtime resident of Riverside, whose work in creative writing and scholarship is both publicly engaged and also recognizes some of the best when it comes to contemporary fiction and literature. Most recent novel published by Professor Straight is called Mecca, set right here in the Inland Empire. So Susan, I'm going to quote from you here. Quote one of the things she tells us, I wrote this book about our students too, who are trying to write about Hemet, Fontana, Rialto, Bloomington. Why can't these Inland Empire cities be the centerpieces of a great book? Of course they can. And of course, these cities and these places and these residents can be the center of every research initiative that we do, and also, of course, every publicly engaged activity that we have as well. Some examples of that, about how we deepen the way we value and perceive community engagement. We also, of course, put a renewed emphasis on the way we demonstrate and articulate and translate our disciplines to this community here. 3 examples. Professor of Ethnic Studies, Professor Edward Chang, the founding director of the Young Kim Center, whose work on Pachapa Camp, which is the first Korean-American town in the United States, down near downtown Riverside, has been recognized in the national media, but it's also been recognized by the city. Pachapa Camp is the city of Riverside's first cultural point of interest. This work has attracted the attention of the Mellon Foundation Humanities in Place program, which is hoping to invest in telling this story to a wider global, or at least a national audience, through an online exhibition to continue the one that was at UCR Arts. Associate Professor of Ethnic Studies, Alfonso Gonzalez Toribio, who's the director of the Latino and Latin American Studies Research Center, and also a faculty member in that Summer Research Institute I just mentioned here. Professor Gonzalez Toribio's work talks about the fact that of the residents of the Inland Empire, about 50% identify as Latinx. And so the research that he does with this group and the engagement that he does with this populations helps us to understand questions about linguistic justice, immigrant rights, and access to leisure. Professor Kate Sweeney, whose research on worry associated with uncertain waiting, worry and uncertain waiting, has helped us to understand the public and to engage in the public conversation about anxiety and uncertainty in the Inland Empire during the COVID-19 impact. Across this college, CHASS is conducting research and developing the curriculum that addresses the real concerns of a real community that this institution sits. Talking about questions of health disparities, about policing, air quality, sustainability, and workforce preparedness. So I want to stress the significance that we have for the place and the public in which we sit. Now, of course, the work that we do, the people who come here, we prepare people to be successful in the world. Give you a couple of examples here. Someone I met early last month for Christie Lopez, who's a professor of practice at Georgetown University Law Center. Christie's from Norco, California. She's got her degree here in history in 1990, went on to the Department of Justice as an intern there, eventually led various kinds of civil rights initiatives and police reform initiatives within the Department of Justice, which were recognized by the Attorney General, but included investigation of the Ferguson Police Department, and also investigations of policing, police practices, and police accountability in Los Angeles and in New York. Looking at questions about stop and frisk, gender bias when it comes to public safety officers' responses to incidents of sexual assault and domestic violence. Here we have a CHASS alum from the Inland Empire in Washington making a national impact. Celebrate Christie's work. She continues to do that now as a professor. A more recent alum, who I just met on LinkedIn yesterday. We've been exchanging. He might be on right now here. Mina Hanan, who's a class of 2018, political science here. Mina and his family fled religious persecution in Egypt, eventually landed here in the Inland Empire, graduated from high school, Rancho Cucamonga, came here to UCR to pursue his education, was a Leverage Fellow, and during that time period talked and thought about his own life experience, refugee status, religious persecution, to do some of the research that he did as a student, but also some of the engagements that he had about civil and legal rights for immigrants. He's now at Harvard, getting an MPP, I should say. So both Mina and Christie are powerful examples of the way that CHASS is educating current and future leaders whose life journeys, whose research, whose life experiences pass through the IE and have an impact in this community and in the world. Of course, we have to talk about the students who are here today. We have more than 10,000 students in the college right now. And we have to talk about what they need, what they're doing, and particularly our obligation for their student experience and their student success. Now, I stressed before, it is remarkable that we have diverse students, and it is remarkable. But in some ways, it's not so remarkable because our students are so diverse that they just show up. And what they're doing is they're transforming every single discipline, every department, every major because of who they are. So in some ways, what they are doing is meeting our obligations and the world's needs to have a diverse workforce, creative force, political class, and citizenry. We in CHASS are educating the next Black playwright, the next Muslim sociologist, psychologist, the next Latina economist, the next Asian American classicist, the next trans entrepreneur. We do that by opening our doors. So this is an important thing. These are our students. Embrace that. But, and this is important, our students don't graduate on autopilot. We have needs and obligations to design curriculum and support services that will ensure that our students will graduate. So what's a metric of that? Graduation rates. It's a pretty standard, it's a national metric here. It's also a standard which the UC itself is going to ask of us in the coming years here. So of course, we need to be designing curriculum, student support services, mentoring that ensures that our students complete their chosen degree in a timely fashion with the experiences and skills that will keep them successful in their lives, what they came here for. This fundamental metric of graduation rates is 1. UC 2030, which is a plan for the entire UC system, sets a pretty ambitious goal for 6-year graduation rates, 90%. Each campus and ultimately each college and each major should have a 90% 6-year graduation rate. Right now, our campus is at 77%, 78%, which is good. But that means we're 22, 23% of our students are not graduating in 6 years. Now, some of them go on to graduate, but some of them are not graduating at all. That is a very, very soul-crushing idea. People come here and they're not able to be successful. So when we think more specifically about what's taking place in our college, because students ultimately enroll in majors, not so much in the college as a whole, we need to look granularly about what's taking place. So a rising conversation that we'll be having in this college in the coming year in particular are graduation rates by major. Let me give you an example of what that conversation can look like. Spanish major. About 175 Spanish majors right now in Hispanic Studies, Department of Spanish Studies, 175. We look at the 4-year graduation rates, and this chart here, which is a relatively new way to see data here, gives overall rates, and then it also breaks it down by URMs and what they say is low-income students, which is sort of a proxy for Pell Grant students here. In this particular case, the numbers are very similar here. So we look at the 4-year rate for Spanish, and around 52%. Not good, and certainly below even where campus is. We look at the 6-year rate. This is now almost 93%, fantastic, exceeding UC 2030's goals in 2022. These are probably 2021. So there's a lot of different things to say here. Something is not working as well as it should and could for the 4-year graduation rate within Spanish. Something is working exceedingly well. Many things are working exceedingly well for this at the 6th year. Interventions that the Department of Hispanic Studies are making to ensure that those students graduate, the students that they have graduate, are working. So this is a great way to have the beginning of the conversation. What's taking place in Spanish? How can this be modeled out to other departments? Of course, numbers are going to look different for each major. Scale, there's all kinds of curricular issues here, but this is a growing conversation we have so that we are on track to be as close as we can to our UC 2030 goals. And we have some time to do so, but we've got to start that conversation now. But it's not just about numbers. It's the total whole student that we are educating, and it's the total whole student experience that will define what student success looks like. So Rashana Thomas is an example of that. I met Rashana at Highland today, our recruitment event just a couple of weeks ago here. She's a political science and African American studies double major here. She's a CHASS first peer ambassador. As you can see, her research involves Black-led businesses in inland Southern California. She has a lot of service work and leadership at the National Black Law Students Association, Black Student Union. She's a volunteer. Roshana shared with our recruits, who these are particularly high, kind of pretty accomplished recruits who were up for a chancellor's scholarship or chancellor's of region scholarship. She shared what her total life experience and her student experience is like. It was really quite inspiring. And so we have to think about Roshana as this total, whole, successful student and how we provide opportunities and we provide conditions in which she can thrive and she can share her story of thriving with our next generations of students. However they come into the university, from wherever they come, how they can come in and graduate and have these full kinds of experiences. So I think it's important to understand that our CHASS students are disruptors, and we are educated them as they educate us. And the ways to help understand what the next generation of educated UCR graduates are going to look like. Now, I'm going to come back to this recruitment piece in just a second here. But before I do that, I want to just mark right here, there's going to be a tonal change right here. We're going to talk about budget. We're going to talk about organizations. We're going to talk about some very difficult things that we all go through and we have gone through over the last couple of years. So it's a tonal shift. Let's celebrate Roshana, but we're not talking about it. So I want to say first off that to recruit, retain, and graduate students like Roshana, we need departments, personnel, and facilities. Departments, personnel, and facilities. What do they all require? Money. We don't have money. We don't have any. We don't have enough. We certainly know we don't have enough right now. So I want to talk about the big picture and then talk about some of the pain points that we have in terms of our budget here. So we'll start out here by recognizing and acknowledging that there is a decent amount of money on this campus. Total expenditures right now on this campus are about $1 billion. $1 billion. CHASS specifically, expenditures in the last fiscal year, $100 million. That is a reflection of the size, scale, and scope of who we are, $100 million. Many institutions in the United States and certainly globally that would be very, very pleased to have that kind of budget here. So, of course, the largest margin of where our money goes to people. 97% of our expenditures go to people, faculty and staff, and their health benefits and their retiree benefits. So faculty and staff and benefits. So you can see the vast majority of our budget goes into people because these are the people who are doing the teaching and advancing the research mission. So it makes a certain more than logic that the vast majority goes into people. But we have to recognize there are many structural stressors that we deal with here. Some of those structural stressors, and I know that, I don't know if Professor Wilcox is with us, come from historical redlining of this institution in the Inland Empire. We deal with the burdens of redlining and structural inequalities in California. But more specifically, we deal with some burdens which were somewhat, shall we say, perhaps more of our choosing, though this was all before some of us were here, when our new budget model was put in place, which put CHASS in a difficult position. Challenging position. We think about faculty to staff ratios, student to faculty ratios, student to staff ratios. And if you're interested in what those figures look like, you can go to the PDF material there, and it gives you kind of breakdown of where we are, where we have been. The pandemic hit 2 years ago. Very, very intense, almost seemingly existential crisis that the college, university, but the college faced when it comes to its budget. But I want to stress we're not falling off the cliff. We didn't fall off the cliff. And we're not falling off the cliff now. It's not catastrophic. We, over the last 5 years, we look, and here's some indicators, more or less, our staff numbers have remained fairly constant. Not enough staff, but we have not actually lost staff. Our faculty numbers were actually growing over time, took a dip during the pandemic, but this year, and I don't have the exact number, I think we are doing actively right now 20 or 21 faculty recruitments between the recruitments that were approved last year and the very aggressive embrace that I have advocated for the president's postdoc and the chancellor's postdoc. I think it's actually 21 recruitments actively going on right now. So I think that that will deal with some of our dipping numbers when it comes to faculty. And then our enrollments remain more or less about half the university. We have not hemorrhaged students. It's very important here, but there's still a lot of pain. And I want to stress, there is still a lot of pain in our budget, in our capacity, our challenges that we have to meet the capacity, or to the challenge we have in capacity to meet our aspirations and our quality. So first, though, I want to stress, some of you have been thinking a lot about the budget cuts that were put in place, and of course heard different figures and everything, what was going on here and everything. You know, this is before I arrived here. But here, I give you a sense of what that story looks like here. So when the beginning of the pandemic hit, there was a projected 11% cut, existential level cut, which was reduced to 8.2 and then reduced again to 6.4. So 6.4 is the actual cut that we had to deal with, more or less $5.9 million. It's a decent amount of money. If we think about our total budget, $100 million, and now our budget, $100 million, and more or less 6.4. I mean, the number right there. So this is difficult, but through austerity, sacrifice, some creativity, we've been able to deal with that debt. I'm very pleased to say that as of July 1, the debt that the debt associated with this cut will be resolved. We will be able to move forward no more with the burden of the cuts. And I think that's an important place to say we're not falling off the cliff. However, there are some moving forward pain points that we have to think about. So our enrollment, the budget model rewards enrollment and particularly rewards growth. Okay, there's formulas that give a certain amount of dollar amounts for every major and every workload, which is in a sense seats offered. So you see over time, since the budget model was put in place 2014, 2015, overall campus has grown, 3,500 students or so, and CHASS has grown, 650 students. But proportionally, CHASS has not grown as quickly as campus. Campus is growing faster, campus as a whole is growing faster than we are. So that means we are losing money that's on the table. So that is a concern. Our enrollments are a concern. And then we think about what this looks like in a more immediate sense, because we have a very responsive budget model when it comes to enrollments. Basically, in real time, with just a slight lag of a quarter, enrollments go up, we get revenue. Enrollments go down, we get revenue, that revenue gets taken away, the projected revenue gets taken away. So what has been happening to us in the past 2 years? Last fiscal year, because of our leaking, not hemorrhaging, leaking enrollments, both majors and headcounts, we had an unrealized, or we had a loss, I should say, or unrealized revenue, maybe, or negative growth of $1.3 million. This year, it's not final, but we anticipate it to be $1.2 million, additional $1.2 million. So the past 2 years, $2.5 million. $2.5 million. You want to ask me what I lose sleep about? It is this. The numbers are large, the trends are not the right direction, and the constraints that this imposes on us are real. $2.5 million in the past year. Do you know what we could do with $2.5 million of the past year? At least 10 faculty hires with startup packages. $2.5 million would certainly resolve the problems that we have in not being able to have the right student advisor ratio to student, advisor to student ratio, I should say. That should be in the 300s or so, and we're much closer to 500, 600, depending on the group. $2.5 million would help us clearly address many of the structural and staffing issues in the multidisciplinary unit. But this is $2.5 million we don't have, and it's not coming back. Those students have already enrolled, they've already gone. So next year, we can't be in the same situation. If we talk about what our pain points are, that is what I'm concerned about. I'm asking all of us, you in here personally, and here in person, those online, to be thinking about what it is in your major, in your discipline, in your curriculum that you can do about our enrollment. Some of this enrollment starts at the recruitment. We need to get more students to be interested to come into the door. We need to get those students to be successful and thrive when they're here. Because if our students leak, our pain continues. I don't mean to be too dark about that, but that is the actual, in real time, we have a very responsive budget model. So that being said, it's not just about Enrollments here, we have some other pain points. We all know we have facilities challenges in various spaces here. Let me give an example of that. UCR Arts, the Culver Center, just received American Association Museum of Accreditation. Fantastic, fantastic. And they received, then the visitors came and the accreditation happened in the context in which part of the facade of the building had fallen on the plaza of Main Street a couple months prior. That's a challenge, but this is only one of many challenges we know. We know we have seismic challenges, we have ADA challenges, we have inclusive bathroom challenges, restroom challenges, we have space challenges, we have technology challenges, we have the challenges of the Center for Ideas and Societies, which is being relocated here. So these are all serious challenges that we have to think about here. And that is not really enrollment driven, because those dollars really don't go to facilities here. There are some bright spots here because of the lottery funds, sort of an unknown, but nonetheless important investment. This college will be the beneficiary of somewhere between $4 and $5 million in investment in deferred maintenance, addressing deferred maintenance and technology needs. And that would be the next year or so. So some of that, some of you already know you have right now. That's good. Should Assemblymember Medina's bill come through, it's a very ambitious bill, $1.2 billion, I believe, to invest in the UCR campus and our sister campus in Merced. We're going to have better facilities like this, appropriate facilities for instruction and our research. Is it all going to happen? I don't know. Let's get 25% of that. And CHASS will certainly be able to step in and fill those facilities needs. But nonetheless, right now we still have those challenges because we are under-resourced, but we also need to be strategic about identifying the areas, including facilities, where we need to invest in our money. The other big area, obviously, we need to think about investment is staff and staffing. We have about 160 staff members in the college. During the pandemic, some of them never left while campus was closed. They were here. The majority were working 2-3 times as much as they probably anticipated or could, or in some sense could. But nonetheless, they're getting the job done for us at a very, very challenging circumstances here. We need to invest more in more staff, obviously, but also in the kind of wider options that our staff has in terms of being professionals and the career development opportunities that they have. Let me give you an example of one person that sort of symbolizes the best of CHASS staff and also tells us to call, like, what are we, what's the return on the investment, as it were? So Jennifer Paramo, who's one of the academic advisors, UCR alumna, first generation student. She's a black belt in karate. She's a skateboarder, my understanding, as well, a penny board, I guess that's this type of skateboard maybe. She shared with the students at Highlander Day about, what it would be like to come in as a major and sort of talk to them about their opportunities. But also what I saw in her, heard in her, is her own career and professional development as she has grown, including securing a master's as well. These are the type of individuals, the type of professional trajectories, the type of career paths, and the type of staff and staff quality that we need more of in academic advising, in finance and administration, in facilities, in marketing and communication, and many of the different areas that support our research instructional mission. So I want to celebrate Jen's accomplishment, but I also need to stress we need to invest in staff. And that's going to have to be part of the conversations that we have about balancing our competing needs under sometimes challenging conditions. So talking about the future here, CHASS remains as vital as ever. We're still standing. Gone through a leadership transition as well, which can always be challenging for everyone. We are at the core of the research institution that is knocking at the AAU. And I think we should be very proud of that. We face uneven enrollments, but we can do better. And I think we have the capacity. There are culture wars out there that hammer our peers in other states. I'm hoping they don't come here, but we're responsive. We know how to talk about intersectional work, among other things, and we certainly have the tools and capacities to move forward. So strategic planning is going to be the leading way in which this process is going to play out. The provost is asking each unit on campus, including all the schools and colleges, to develop a strategic plan for that unit. In this case, it would be for CHASS here. And so this is going to be an opportunity for us to do the work, to identify what our assets are, what our needs are, some of the choices. It's also an opportunity for us to think about how we can be more inclusive and expansive in resource allocation and decision-making, of course, including academic senate faculty, also faculty who are not in the academic senate, staff, and the stakeholders at campus and off campus who make this college. So that's going to be coming. We're going to establish kind of a process with a target to have a strategic plan by the end of the calendar year. I'm going to ask all of us to think about making decisions moving forward where we want to be, not in reaction to this health emergency that has burdened us so much over the last 2 years. We want to be in reaction rather than who we've been forced, this unfortunate place we've been forced to be. Future of work is one of those many conversations we're trying to talk about in a sort of bridge way right now, in this experiment period right now, about what the nature of work-life balance can and should look like for staff members, for offices, and ultimately for the work itself. I want to stress we have many things going right, and we continue to do the things that are going right, going well and doing right. And we have the capacity to do more for our own benefit and our own terms, but also for the benefit of those that we serve and educate. That, of course, when how we serve and educate comes back to our bottom line. Just one more time, I lose sleep about enrollments. I could tell you this story that our enrollments are up and we had $1.2 million extra, it would be great. That's what I'd like to say to you next year. But let's talk about how we expand and extend the pipelines for student success, student access, educational experience from first-year research through postdoctoral training and also into the workforce. Means we need to think about how we can expand our summer offerings. There's a revenue source to that. Of course, also student summer offerings are very good for student completion. Better integration with undergraduate admissions, better partnerships with student recruitment, as well as the Career Center. CHASS is there getting the students come in. CHASS is there as they're placed leaving. Collaborative hiring, looking across colleges, looking across campuses for collaborative hiring initiatives. And then fellowships, awards, and sponsored research. Let's grow our research profile. And of course, that requires the infrastructure. And I'm going to commit already to expanding the infrastructure within the college to support research, securing fellowships and grants, and then hopefully, to look also the support to administer grants as well. So it's also, though, about we have to recognize that our students, undergraduate and graduate, have financial needs. They have needs that we cannot fully meet. The campus has not been able to, and many of them don't have the full capacities of families or loans. And so we have to also think about how philanthropy plays a role in addressing student success and student needs. I want to give a shout out here to my predecessor, Stephen Cullenberg, who was a professor of economics, very committed to first generation students. In his memory, the Cullenbergs, Paula and Clifton and Tracy, who I have all met online, have been so generous to establish a student fund, a scholarship fund in Dean Cullenberg's memory here. It's open to all CHASS undergraduates and graduates. We're going to be rolling out in the coming months here. It's to support students with financial needs. This is one example of many, but how donors, friends can help us advance our obligations to our students here. And then we think more broadly about where we are with advancement. Living the Promise, which is completed last year, and then right now in the Beyond Brilliant included opportunities to support scholarships. And we have 47 scholarships, which are either established or expanded during that period here. So the Cullenbergs are one of that group. Fantastic. I think more broadly, when we think where we are right now with Beyond Brilliant, our student success campaign, which is going on right now, there's a $12 million goal for CHASS. We're at $9 million. The campaign still has a ways to go. So I think we have more than capacity to exceed our goal. And that $12 million or that $15 million or whatever the number is there to support our students for their financial needs and also for their high impact opportunities that are provided in student scholarships and awards. So this is part of that. Of course, each and every one of us also have an opportunity and an obligation to go out there and tell the CHASS story, to advocate for CHASS. Talk about your departments, talk about your disciplines, talk about what we do, get other people involved, and particularly elected officials. at the state level. I've already mentioned Assemblymember Medina's role here, but also at the federal level here. And here's some examples of what activities are just going on in the last month and a half here. Humanities Advocacy Day and Social Science Advocacy Day, which were about 2 weeks apart or so. Here, got our professors, Jorge Leal and Claudio Ging, to tell stories that they've been doing with support of the National Endowment for the Humanities. We had, I can't remember who's on that call right there, and the smaller one, the social science, our partners at UCI here. I had the opportunity to meet with Congressman Takano in his office in Washington. Of course, Congressman Takano's an alum for the low residency MFA program as well, so it's wonderful. But we were able to show to him in real time about the significance of the investments that the federal government makes in higher education, and more specifically here at UCR. So each of us have an opportunity, and I would say an obligation, to join in advocacy efforts. Some of you might be comfortable working with elected officials, but it doesn't only have to be that way. We have social media to just create a feeling, a buzz, for people want to be excited about who we are and how we go about doing it. So where are some of the investments going to go? I want to stress here again, staff is one of those key areas of investment. Student academic affairs, especially CHASS advisors, Carol May and Judith Lopez there. We're talking, of course, broadly about big buckets. We can't do it all at once. Faculty, and particularly diverse faculty, and retaining, attracting, recruiting, developing our diverse faculty. Could be a big area there. Talk some about some of the areas that are already taking place this year and will continue. Staff, we already talk about staff numbers, but also in staff career development, creating pipelines, pathways for our staff to stay in the college and grow. Academic advising is a big area of mine. That will be an area that campus as well is going to be a partner for us. Information technology, we need a lot of information technology if we're going to have this hybrid work and teaching instruction here, so they can do that. Marketing, communication, advocacy, I've talked about that. The MDU continues to be a pain point for this college. Some of it is going to be relieved by more investment, and the moment also have to be related to some things which are not necessarily monetary, but nonetheless going to be important to create better working academic research and professional conditions in the MDU. And then of course, we're going to be investing in new academic units. We have 2 proposals right now at the Academic Senate, Departments of Black Study, Departments of Environment, Sustainability, and Health Equity. I support both of those, and I will be writing to the Senate in the next week to endorse, as Dean of the College, my support for these 2 departments. We'll have to work together to what is 2 new departments, and the academic programs and the staffing and the research and the curricular needs that go along with that. But I think it's very important that these 2 new, very exciting areas of scholarship are part of our future for the college. But of course, we have other programs that also would like more investments. I'll use liberal studies, for example, among others, and you have to think about that. So these are some of the areas that we're going to have to figure out how we do. So I want to go back. Here are our 5 pillars here. I want to go back to myself here. 1 year ago, I gave a vision to a screen like this. Some of you may have been on that call. 1 year and 1 day later, I'm here as the Dean of the College. I'm very proud to be here. I'm very excited where we're going. I recognize that we can't get it all done all at once, and there's a lot of frustration, but more importantly, I do believe that the state of the college is good. And I thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Daryle, and we all appreciate all of the insight from your report. So would you be open for some Q&A?
Yes.
Awesome. So we do have about 130 attendees online. So we'll be taking some of the online questions as well as taking some in-person questions. So if you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll have someone bring you a microphone.
I have 2 questions from the Zoom audience. The first one is from Martha Gardell. She asks, what are the factors that affect needing the extra 2 years for graduation?
That question is going to be one that each major and each department that oversees the major is going to have to ask. The numbers change for each major. I gave an example for Hispanic Spanish and Hispanic studies. All of the majors are in the report, so you can see. So that's each department is going to do this conversation about what's working, what's not working, what could work better in that major. But then also, I do think we need to be thinking, especially with academic advising, about where we are as a college to provide the resources and the interventions necessary. this is a little bit interesting because I'm not sure where to look here. So,
Okay,
Hi,
John
John.
Fisher
Hi, John. How are you?
from Philosophy. First, thank you for this presentation. It was extremely impressive. You've got to know the campus quite well in relatively short time. Appreciate it. One comment and then a quick question. Comment, as you know, STEM is the emphasis throughout the country and has been for the last couple of years. And humanities and social sciences departments and colleges throughout the country have lost a lot of students. So it wouldn't be surprising that we would have hemorrhaged or at least leaked some students. That's not to say we can work on improving, but I think it's a phenomenon that's nationwide and very significant. That will be. But the question I had was, I have a bunch of different things, but specifically when we are creating these new departments, where do the FTE come from? Where does the money come from? Do you take faculty from other departments? Do you create new lines, which is very expensive? But just how does that work?
Sure. Well, each of these proposals have addressed some of that. And as the departments are stood up, we'll have to do that in real time. The strategic planning process, I'm going to be using this, looking to the strategic planning process for us as a college to think about how we make decisions about resource allocation for any department, including new proposals. So that's going to be both something built upon some of the proposals and the work that's already been done, which is before the Senate, and the Senate's been asking that same questions, but also where we're going forward and how we're going to going about doing that. And then, of course, some departments, some programs, some individuals have capacities to secure external support, and those departments and programs that can do so should then be able to have some of that those resources to build what they're trying to build. So in the case of these two different departments, hires across the university, foundation support, development support, among others. But those, of course, those are would be options for all of our departments as well.
I have one more from our online audience. This one's from Erin Seitz. Erin says, thank you for the wonderful presentations and the informative and uplifting talk. While you're celebrating our research successes, I'm curious if you can also speak to what you see as the major challenges that CHASS faces in advancing its research mission, including how this engages students and the community, and what initiatives that you have in mind to address these.
Sure. So the scope of research in this college is so broad that it's one answer will not address it. Some of our research, some of the challenges or pain points of some of our research are facilities. There's some of the other research activities that need a certain level of infrastructure, technology, space, and we don't have enough of that. Okay, so that's a pain point. Some of it related, and I think about graduate education more broadly. So we think about graduate education mapping onto, I don't know where you are exactly, Erin, but mapping onto what research is. We don't have adequate support for our graduate students. And so that constrains their abilities to kind of fully work through whatever their research initiatives are. And so some of this is related to each program looking very carefully at what type of needs are there to support the number of graduate students that they have, and then making some choices about that. Being like art history, for instance, really expecting students to be out there seeking external support. And I think also this piece here, though, I do want to stress McNair Scholars, Mellon Mays, the new initiative that Alfonso is part of, summer research opportunities. Generally, these are programs that advance the research mission and give students, undergraduate students, wonderful opportunities. So this is something I find to be important. These are generally areas in which we can get some external resources as well. I think that each of our departments should be hopefully looking at opportunities to do so that way.
I have a question for you, Daryle. I think this happened before you arrived, but a group of CHASS faculty actually wrote a letter to the Los Angeles Times decrying the lack of support from the UC for UCR. And that resulted in a front page article in the LA Times that was very incisive. Has that resulted in any kind of shift in terms of funding from the UC?
I would not be able to answer that directly. I do the impact that the conversation about redlining, and I think it's what you're specifically talking about, that many CHASS faculty members took a leadership role in, has been a very important part of the conversation about rebenching across UC. Certainly Chancellor Wilcox's advocacy, Provost Watkins' advocacy for us is informed by the numbers that are associated behind that. It creates a discursive language for us to stand about how it is we have so much quality and potential here, but not the adequate investment, and the disproportionately not adequate investment relative to other campuses. I'm sure this informs how Assemblymember Medina is talking specifically about his bill in the investments, which identify just 2 campuses, Riverside and Merced. And so I think those are some examples of the way that the resonance of that intervention has had impact. Now, this was, of course, in the context of the pandemic too, in which, it's also about cuts and everything. We're kind of coming out of that. But I do, it was a very powerful argument, and I think it's going to be an important foundation for us to think about where we're going to be moving forward. I do want to stress, probably our best chance, though, is to seize our own destiny and figure out how we can generate as much as we can that we don't have to get the approval of Sacramento for, or Oakland.
We have one more from online. This one's from Stephen Hackle. He said, great presentation, super informative and encouraging. Thanks for all you're doing for CHASS. I know it's early in the conversation, but what is the status of CIS?
Oh, well, CIS is the our thriving humanities and research center. So that way it's quite good. Catherine has mobile, Catherine Henshaw, executive director right now, has a mobile CIS. We are faced a very unexpected but very difficult news that the current building is just not adequate, it is not safe. So looking for some alternative spaces for CIS, difficult transitional phase, both remote work, and we all know how to do remote work, but also I think within the next couple months over the summer, we should have a, I'm not going to say a long-term solution, but a medium-term solution for CIS to be able to return to in-person activities as well as the remote activities that they've been doing as well.
We have one more from online. This one's from Shelley Stewart. She says, excellent presentation and holistic perspective of how CHASS moves forward. In regard to staff development, are there already ideas or initiatives that you have in mind to support this?
Yeah, so one is, I'm going to say this is a kind of a feature of the future of work, is to hear and listen and be in that moment of looking at what does hybrid schedules, flex schedules look and feel like for staff, a staff-centered approach to the future of work. So we're in that space right now. But again, to do so in the space of doing it because we can, as opposed to, that was the only option we had, which was really the way things were for quite some time. So looking at these conversations that happen at the unit level, the functional level here. But the other side is to also figure out what it is it's going to be essential for us to continue in terms of staff development that includes in-person activities, team building, climate and culture, professional development, both leadership development and also connection to the campus. Connection to the physical space, connection to the fact that there are students out here every day being educated and they're physically here. Some of them are online, but a lot of them are here. So how do we have to sort of balance out that as part of staff development? And we're also thinking about what has really driven in some ways driven the conversation about the future of work, which is about work-life balance. So put those two together to be.
A question here? No?
Oh, hi.
Luca Ferrero, Philosophy. Thank you for your presentation. I have a question about how we calculate the enrollments in the budget model. Are those in terms of majors? Because here's one worry that some departments might have in CHASS, that we offer a lot of what's called service teaching and general education requirements. And are we going to be penalized for teaching students that we don't want them to become majors, but we want to be exposed to what we do here?
There's a formula, and so every major, there's a dollar figure associated with every major, and there's also a dollar figure, an additional dollar figure associated with what's called workload, which is really a number of student seats which get bundled together. So majors matter. Grow majors, you're going to grow, but also the number of service courses, just your instructional profile in general, whether it's a service course, whether it's for your majors, whether it's at any level, also will translate into dollars. So it's a sort of strategic balance about what this looks like. Together, though, the dollar figures are calculated at the college level, but the college is made up of all of these ultimately courses and majors. And so that's where the balance of that is. So one of the conversations you'll of course look at is how many majors you have. Is that the right number of majors? That's a question. Are the majors that you have, are they graduating on time? Are you thinking about them as being prepared for the whole student? And also, how is your discipline in the part of the profile of the whole university? So even if we think about our growth rate for majors has not grown as quickly, it's disproportionately slower growth than the rest of campus. All those BCOE and the majority of those science majors and public policy, they're still taking CHASS courses for general education because of their interest, because of their disciplines that we offer, because we offer a lot of really high quality potential there. So those are also ways that we are part of the academic mission of student success, generally for UCR. And then there's also some financial resources that go along with it. If for some reason we're pushing those students away, though, that's going to be a challenge because those students aren't going to be exposed to our academic quality, but it's also going to be a challenge because, I'm going to put it bluntly, we don't get the head count, we don't get the dollars.
All right, we have two final questions online, but fortunately they both deal with the same topic. So Catherine Kinney says, thank you for your candid and hopeful presentation. Can you share your thoughts on how you will organize the strategic planning initiative? And Michelle Salzman says, a thoughtful and incisive presentation. It's refreshing to hear the focus on research and student success. Thank you. Can you say more about what you're expecting from strategic planning at the department level?
Sure. So we'll start at the college level, though I think our college is made up of departments, programs, peoples, various ways. So we need to first look at what the general parameters are that from the provost for all colleges, and then kind of digest that. What does that mean for a college of our size? 20 departments, I don't know how many programs, how many majors, and everything like that, how many people. And then I think it's going to be very important. We have faculty representation, so looking at the executive committee as an elected body of faculty representatives, looking at those who are not faculty members who are not on the executive committee. So we have some, because that's not in the Senate. We need to have their voices at the table. I don't know what the mechanism exactly. Someone got to get them on there. We have to have staff on there. Have to have staff. So I'm going to be turning to the staff and asking what would be the best way to get staff voices there. Does this come from staff assembly? Does it come from a self-nomination process? I don't know. I'm kind of open-ended. I'm very curious. But those are, I think, those are the key constituents. And then, we're going to have to figure out what our charge is. What is the scope? What is the temporal scope? How long are we looking at? I think 2030 is a good time frame. We have UC 2030 as a guide. So we have one key metric right there, which is about graduation rates. And what do we need to do as a college? But that's not the only, temporal. We also, again, I think need to come up with some stronger considered parameters about trade-offs, but also priorities, sequence things. We cannot do it all at once. It's just not possible right now. So what are our top priorities? How do we identify those priorities? And then how do we stick with them and measure ourselves relative to what we've set up as metrics and accomplishments? Of course, I was thinking, stuff's going to happen. Hopefully, we've had a couple bad things happen to us recently. Hopefully, some good things will happen to us. And how do we then take advantage of unexpected but fortuitous developments?
Well, thank you, Dean Williams. And thank you everyone for joining us. We do have refreshments in the east patio. If you haven't been here before, it's down the stairs, straight ahead to your left.
So before we do that, I have a couple of thank yous myself. So thank you, Julie, Thank you, Erica, for providing this space for all of us here. Thank our student performers for showing us their talent, their courage, being part of this. I want to thank everyone here who made it possible for being in this building. Those people who designed and built the building, and those people in facilities who got us into this room. It was quite a difficult feat to get us into this room, this wonderful room here. I want to thank, oh, she's already gone. I want to thank one of our faculty members who showed me what this wonderful, and he did from psychology, what this wonderful room could look and feel like. And I said, we have to be here. So I want to thank everyone who made this actual room possible and us in it. Tracy Avery, executive assistant, done wonderful work. Cindy Williams, CFAO, who did a lot of work on our statistics, and you can see that work there. Student workers who are there peopling the doors here. Everyone else in the office of the dean. As I've already mentioned, Paul and his team and facilities, some are here and some who are not. Jeff and the marketing communication teams, and more specifically Jeff. Jeff brought this to my attention when I was still, I don't even know, a candidate, and here we are. And Jeff has done a fantastic job, so thank you, Jeff. Thanks, Jeff, also being a voice and an advocate for, as his role as president of the staff assembly. I want to thank every one of you here in person. We have some friends from outside the college. We have many people from inside the college. Those of you who are online who've taken the time and the courage and the being in that space to be here today. I'm very honored to be with you. I thank all of you.